Morning grade 5s and welcome back to yet another geography lesson on physical features. Today's lesson is going to be on physical features and human activities. But before I go into today's lesson, I would like to recap on what we have been doing in the past 2 weeks. Okay, in the past 2 weeks we have spoken about physical features of South Africa. And I did say that physical features were those features that occurred naturally. They are not man-made. They just occur naturally. We spoke about the coastal plains and the coastlines. We spoke about the escarpments and plateaus, capes and bays, mountain ranges, hills and valleys. We also spoke about rivers and waterfalls. All these are natural features, which means that they occur naturally, they are not man-made. Physical features have a lot to do with where people live. The physical features in an area will affect the human activities that take place in that particular area. Human activities are things that people do. Okay, human, people. Alright, so when we talk about human activities, we are talking about the things that people do. I'll give you examples of human activities. Going to school, for example, is a human activity. We expect humans to go to school. Fishing, building, all these are activities that are done by human beings. Looking after children is a human activity. On my next slide, I'm going to look at the human activities that are influenced or that occur along the hills, valleys, and grasslands. Cattle raising, for example, takes place in these grasslands and valleys and hills. These are very beautiful physical features that provide good grazing lands for our cattle, sheep, and goat. So looking after cattle is a human activity that requires a physical feature, and in this case, this is a valley. I'm sure you can see you've got your mountains or your little hills there, and in between the hills you have your valleys. So you will find that we use valleys for cattle grazing. So cattle grazing is a human activity that requires a physical feature. And if you look closely at this picture here, there's a maize crop at the back there. So you can actually use your valleys as well for growing your crops, because you find that in most cases these valleys have got nice, beautiful, fertile soils, and you can grow your crops without any problems there. Alright, then we move on to our next feature. Here the feature is a gentle slope. That is our feature. And what can happen on a gentle slope? We are expecting people to do quite a number of things on a gentle slope. I think I remember talking about the gentle slope when I touched on your coastal plains, and I said that they were quite gentle. So on gentle slopes, we want we can do quite a number of activities there. Building is one of them. I did mention in my previous slides or previous lessons that building on a steep slope was never a good idea. Okay, it's good if you can afford it, but it becomes very expensive. So most of the times we do not build on steep slopes, but we build on gentle slopes. There is a gentle slope there, and there's no problem in building there, and it's not very expensive because it's quite gentle. This person here has decided to build on a steep slope, but he has followed the right procedures and he's produced a beautiful home. This one will withstand any weather condition because he's followed the plan. It's quite expensive, that's why we don't build. Only those who can build there, but we do not encourage people to build on steep slopes. We encourage people to build on gentle slopes. At the top here, you've got an informal settlement. Informal settlement, these are places where people just build, okay? They don't have plans, They just build, they find an empty space and then they just start building. This is not a good idea. As you can see, they've decided to build on a steep slope, and when it starts to rain, the soil soaks in a lot of water. So if it rains for a week or so without stopping, then it means that this soil is going to be so wet that it starts to move. You know, I'm sure you've heard of mudslides and so on. So when the soil starts to move, then it means the building is also moving. That's why time and again you hear on the news that these people have lost their homes and so on. And most of the times they're building maybe close to some water source, and then it floods. They just build anyway. But in this particular slide, I'm talking about the steepness of the slope. Okay, it's not a good idea to build it like that unless if you've got a right plan and you're following that plan to the T. All right, then our next activity is, our next slide talks about the coastline and the coastal plains. So here I've also got activities that you can follow, very easy to follow. We've got somebody there by the coastline. Remember what a coastline is? We've got that line there that divides the land from the sea. We also have another coastline there. We've got another coastline on the other side, and there's another coastline there. There's quite a number of activities that happen along the coastline and the coastal plain. So these are some of them. All right. So depending on where you are, you will find that people have got activities that they do around that particular physical feature. All right. Then we move on to our next slide, and this one is a river. And we did talk about rivers, and we said that rivers were also a physical feature. It is very important that we understand the importance of a river. Okay? Most of us just see a river as something that has got water in it. But we've got people who don't have tapped water like we do. They get their water from the river. They don't have washing machines. They wash from the river. And they don't even have any shops around. So you'll find that some of them get their fish from the river. So in this slide here, I've got a family that is washing their clothes. They are washing the clothes by the river, and then these ones here are collecting water by the river. Yes, one might say, but ma'am, these guys are washing and the other ones are collecting. That's the nature of the game. This water is never clean, so you would need to boil it before you use it. But we are looking at the activities that take place. Alright? So people can wash along the river. They can collect some drinking water along the river. You can also find people fishing along the river. Alright. Then we have our next slide is our mountainous areas, the mountain ranges, and our escarpments. Okay, so in those physical features, you can have quite a number of human activities taking place there. Like I said in my previous slides, that you can actually make money out of your mountain ranges. You can use these areas as recreational, for recreational purposes. We can use these to attract tourists from other countries to come to our country and see what beautiful mountains we've got. We can go hiking and just taking a walk up the mountains. You know, those are some of the features that we have, those are some of the activities that you can do in mountainous areas. So it's every time a question talks about human activities, what we are actually saying is the activities that people do in a particular area. So in this case, we are saying our physical features will determine what type of human activity we can do in that particular area. So there is a link between the human activities and the physical features that are presented in any given area. I hope you understand the slide and you are able to do activity 10 and activity 11 in your platinum textbook. Have a good day. Goodbye.